Ready?
Hi, I am Heather McLean, and you're going to be watching Heather's Health Talk. And today I'm going to be interviewing Gayle Hannan. Now, Gayle is an experienced energy healer. She is a certified Barbara Brennan healing science practitioner and a minister and Reiki master. And she's right in our area. And Gayle is going to be talking to us about how she became an energy healer and what energy healing involves and how that can be used as a part of a whole healing program for people. Not necessarily on its own, but in combination with other things. So, hello Gayle, and welcome to Heather's Health Talk. And I would like you to talk a little bit about how you got into this. And before you say that, I just got to say one thing. Dr. Oz, if you don't believe me, everyone believes in Dr. Oz, don't they?
He's a good man.
Dr. Oz says, and he has cited, that energy medicine is the medicine of the future. And if you don't believe me, Google it, because if you can Google anything, you can Google Dr. Oz and energy healing. I just had to say that.
Yeah.
All right, Gayle, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into your work.
It's a long story, so I'll try to be brief, but stories are fun.
Yeah, stories are fun.
Stories are fun. So back about almost 20 years ago now, I made a change in my life. Had a big life transition, had my first child, and at that point was working in real estate in Boston, which was a highly competitive environment. Stressful, yeah. And I had to commute a good distance to get there, and I was on the clock. I was on demand, and I realized I didn't want to be on demand from work anymore. I wanted to be on demand for my family. And so I started to search out what would be best for me to change toward. Real estate was really my mother's business. It really wasn't something I chose. It was kind of something I fell into because it was easy and convenient. I could make money while I was in college. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so did that. So as I began to make that change, I kept asking, and I spent a lot of time in prayer and meditation asking what direction I should go into. And I found Reiki and a woman who was teaching it in Leicester, Mass. And she also made Reiki candles, and she had a little metaphysical store where there was lots of books. And I was having a lot of dreams and visions at that point too, which was startling to me in many ways, but I view it as a time when I was opening my intuitive gifts a little further.
Okay, and we think everybody has the capacity to have those intuitive gifts, right?
Absolutely. Everybody has the ability. It's just a matter of developing a skill like you would any kind of skill that you're not always good at it at first, but as you practice it and understand what it is, that's been the biggest stumbling block for most people. They don't understand what it is. So once you begin to understand what it is, you'll get the confirmation you need that, oh yeah, this is real, and keep trusting it, basically, keep trusting it. So I got to this Reiki class and didn't really know what Reiki was, found out, and a little bit of the story is when I pulled up that Saturday morning in December to attend my class, I was very excited about it. The woman's house, she lived in this old farmhouse, New England colonial farmhouse, a big old house, and she had a little shop right next to it, a separate outbuilding, and it was burned to the ground. I pulled up where the big tree was and smoldering ash, and I was kind of like, what is going on here?
Wow.
And it was, it was pretty incredible. And they waved me in. They saw me come in, and they waved me in and said, come on in here. And I went into this almost adjacent building, and it was astonishing to me how it was not touched at all. No smoke damage, no water damage. You would never know inside that space, which was only 10, 20 feet away from the main building, that there was a fire. So I was like, that's odd, because normally, I've seen fires, buildings around it, there's smoke damage. I've had a fire, I've been in one, so I understand that. Anyway, so I go and I get this Reiki training. The woman that was going to teach it, she was in shock about what she was able to do was call in her students and other Reiki practitioners who gave the class. So on that day, I learned Reiki from several people, not just one teacher. I got attuned by 4 masters, and it was kind of powerful experience, and I didn't really understand it at first. But what I did, come to feel and sense in my body, there was definitely a shift in my body that I was able to begin to understand. And you go through a detoxing process. And I talk a lot about this when I teach my classes. I teach Reiki classes regularly now. I have one coming up next month. You process it out, and I was like, it changed me permanently. And I was getting a lot of dreams and intuitive insights, and I blow out electronics, and the car radio didn't work right when I was in it, and light bulbs would. So I was like, there's something to this. There's something to this. So I went, learned about it and practiced it on my family mostly. And later took the Reiki 2 several months later, and then I eventually found my way to the Brennan School because it was more, there was more evidence about what energy healing is about, more scientific understanding that I could process on an intellectual level. Reiki, they kind of just tell you, put your hands on, feel the energy, go with it, which I did, and it was good, but I knew there was something more to it. And my mother had attended the Brennan School at a workshop several years prior, and she had the book Hands of Light, and in it were a lot of images and pictures of the chakra system and the energy field and people, healers working on a person, and I was always intrigued by that. I couldn't really figure out the book because it was pretty dense textbook material. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I did eventually land there and studied for a 4-year training.
And then from that, you've done several things.
Yes, I have.
Which you have your Energy Touch School for Advanced Healing?
Yes.
Okay, and is that something that is in the area? Or
the Energy Touch School for Advanced Healing is a program I went to that my friend Trisha Eldridge, who was a graduate from the Brennan School. She went on to kind of expand Barbara's work in the human energy field. So she took it to the next level. Okay. And was able to, bring a body of work together and certain techniques and practices that I learned. She's out in Michigan. She's in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I bring her here regularly to learn the dolphin breath meditation, which is a process of breathing that helps you develop your intuitive skills and work with your own energy field and the chakra system. So she comes almost every year, and I host her with that with the New Hampshire Holistic Health Network. So.
Okay, and that's the other thing we were going to talk about is your New Hampshire Holistic Health Network.
Yes.
Which is an important, it's like a brochure of sorts, or it's actually a little, what do you call it, like a magazine, or?
It's a guide.
The guide,
it's like a directory, like a telephone directory.
Yeah.
We call it a guide.
Guide is
We're
good.
all guided.
All right, so, and that has just so many holistic practitioners that are listed in that specific guide, and we probably should have had one with us to show people.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, but that's okay because I will probably go through that and probably bring some of those practitioners, if they're willing, onto the Heather's Health Talk to talk to me because my focus is to explore the holistic avenues for people. We all know how to go to a doctor. We all know how to get a prescription for a drug. It's very easy. And there's just so much more out there. Yes. That can enable us to heal ourselves in a much more profound way. It tends to, when we heal, we tend to heal more emotionally, spiritually, physically. Okay, so now we wanted to start with energy work and to talk about, I think maybe we could begin with the human body and the energy field and explain to people about the human energy field and that we actually do have an energy field.
Sure.
And then how chakras play into that, and then we can get into what happens in the energy field to cause disease.
Okay, sure. Okay, where do we begin? So what I studied at the Brennan School of Healing was that the human energy field has a construct. It has a construct and some definition to it. So we learned that there are 7 chakras, and chakra is an ancient Sanskrit word for wheel of light. And so we have in our etheric body 7 chakras of varying colors, and what they do is they process energy into our system.
So the chakras are different vibrational light color, or
Yes.
and you said it's a wheel,
Right.
so these chakras actually turn.
They do.
Okay, so maybe explain how that they turn, or what direction they turn in.
I don't know how they turn. That's kind of a mystery. But I think they're always turning as part of our system, just like our heart is always beating, and our lungs are always working with us too on that, unconscious level. So the chakras process energy. So we have 7 chakras, and they turn counterclockwise, and it's a vortex. So it's like a
So it's like a spiral.
It's like a little vortex that comes into your body, and it connects in the front and the back, like that, and into the spinal area. And there's another meridian there, an energy meridian there, called the hara, which is part of your system. So you have the hara, you have the chakra system, and you have levels of the energy field. So you have the human energy field, which is also known as the aura. Many people are familiar with the word aura. And it's layered. So you have structured layers, which are grid-like, and they correspond with the various chakras. And you have unstructured layers, which are kind of fluid. And there's more fluid movement in there. And the grid areas, the structured levels, that has energy flowing through it too, but it's linear and it's structured. So I was taught how to experience those, how to interact with them, how they function, and how to repair them.
So now we can't see those with the naked eye, and so there are many people who say, oh right, that just doesn't exist, but we have a very small spectrum of sight, with our eyes,
physical eyes,
with our physical eyes. And so it's important for people to realize that just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Well, just like
that's right.
Just like one of these.
Right. There's constantly radiation.
We don't know how it works. It really
emanating from that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is energy emanating from our bodies constantly.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're electromagnetic.
That's right.
That's scientifically proven that we're electromagnetic field.
And so then when you get into something like how the act of thinking, most energy practitioners would know that energy in the thought has almost like a weight or a matter to it.
It has a vibration.
It has vibration.
Frequency,
Okay, that's great.
That can be measured.
And that sort of emanates within us or out of us. And
we
create those thoughts, and then those thoughts can influence kind of what's going on in our electromagnetic field.
Sure.
So thoughts matter. So if you're
Absolutely.
right, okay, so and if you've ever experienced, and I know you have, we've all experienced sitting next to a very positive person or sitting next to a very negative person, where the positive person you almost like want to soak them in. And a negative person, they usually kind of, you leave kind of drained and ready to go to sleep.
Yes.
So that there is something to that. So how do you see things in the energy field becoming disease?
Sure. So what I came to learn at the Brennan School was we are 4-dimensional beings. And we have a physical body, easy to figure out. We have an emotional body, our feelings. We have a mental thought process, intellectual body, and we have our spiritual body, which a lot of us don't really understand that piece of us. So with that in mind, then we are a whole complete person. And the evidence shows that the thoughts, when we continuously have negative or fearful or depressed thoughts on and on and on, that we get into kind of a cycle and a loop. I call it a circuit, that we have an emotional circuit, just like we have physical circuits that when we know how to golf or swim, or body kind of automatically responds. We also have thought and feeling processes that create a neurocircuit in the
Absolutely.
in the brain and the body. And I work with that a lot. What was the question? Oh, I got off track.
How does that cause disease?
How does that cause disease? Oh yeah, we're getting there. Okay, so it causes disease with this unconscious pattern that just keeps getting repeated and repeated. And like you say, somebody who's joyful has a more uplifted energy field. So we're attracted to that because it's vibrating at a higher frequency, and we want to be near it. And somebody who's not, it's a slower frequency, and so it's lower and more dense. So those lower, more dense thought processes or feeling processes, I find they're combined, that we have to think about it and then we feel it. Those stay in our energy field, and over time they get congested, and they magnetize towards one another and create congestion, and that will stay there. Like if you're with that depressive person, they feel heavy, it's because they have a lot of negative or slower, denser thought processes in their energy field, and they kind of hang out there. And so eventually it lands in the physical body. Chinese medicine connects a lot with energy and meridians, and where thoughts go in the physical body. The certain organs will attract different things. Like if you're really an angry person, or if you're upset or angry all the time, you might have kidney problems.
Or liver.
Yeah, or liver. And that's a lot with rage, this liver and fear. Fear.
Okay.
So certain emotions will land in specific organs of the body. And so that eventually, over time, those thoughts will land there and become physical symptoms.
Yes. An example of that might be somebody who goes through a very life-changing trauma, physically, or let's say an emotional trauma, loss of a loved one, divorce, assault of some kind, and they're fine until 4 or 5 years down the road, and then they get sick. That to me is evidence of this kind of change in the energy field that can make you sick.
Right. Just because it doesn't happen quickly.
That's
like a broken bone. It's
Right.
like, there's an accident, the broken bone is severed, okay, we can repair that. The emotional body, the evidence trail is longer. And it's not as easily readily connected to the dots. I think psychology and a lot of those human mental health practices are becoming more aware of this. But I find that early childhood, everything happens the first 7 years, and when we can trace stuff back to an origin point of even just a slight feeling, children's consciousness is undeveloped, and they don't understand interactions that go on in their environment, and they take a lot of this in, and it becomes a negative for them. For us, we all got it. I have it.
I think we all have.
We all have it. Nobody escapes certain things. So, but it creates patterns in the endocrine system, and fear will trigger the immune system, and that'll get out of balance, and it causes the fear and the emotions to be persistent, and that is an upset in the endocrine, which can throw you off. It'll throw you off.
I always think of this example. You're talking a lot about patterns that people have, and when you observe people, and when I observe people, you can always observe certain emotional patterns in the way that they work. And
things that they say.
Yeah, things that they say, and overall attitudes, and the way that they perceive something that somebody says to them might be perceived completely differently than to you. You might go, oh, that person just called me a jerk, ha 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 ha, whatever. And then another person will go, oh my God, that person called me a jerk. I'm such a bad person. I'm, and that circuitry just keeps going. It's like an internal circular argument. Right. So how do you stop that?
So that becomes a habit.
Yeah.
That starts off as a couple of incidents and becomes a habit, and it's a habit is because the energy field is congested with the same habit form. It's an energy form. It's a little dense. So what I do with that is I help the person to first identify it and see it as a pattern. And then we try to trace it back to some origin. And we don't go into a lot of feeling or expression of feeling around the event, because it's a trauma, and it could be a big trauma, it could be a minor trauma. Doesn't really matter. But usually it's a repeated trauma that has a similar essence to it. So we go back to that spot and we identify it and we name it as fear. And then what I'll do is I'll say, okay, well, what's the opposite of that? And I have this emotional scale that I use,
Okay.
which helps people to it's kind of fun and colorful, to identify their feelings. We don't have a good emotional language,
Okay.
most of us, you know.
So if you can't read that, we have
Yeah.
joy, empowerment, knowledge, and appreciation and happiness here. Optimism, positive belief, expectation on the second line.
Yeah.
Then it becomes, I can't read the yellow, but it's overwhelmed.
Irritation, frustration.
Okay, becoming overwhelmed and disappointment.
Yep.
Then we go down to doubt, blame, and worry.
Yeah.
Oh, then it gets,
And then it gets more, in the red zone is about revenge, jealousy, guilt, and then down here lower in the darker part is powerlessness, grief, and depression. So
Okay.
I use this to help a person identify where they are on this chart. And it's relevant to what their energy field looks like. It's relevant to the chakras and the tone.
Okay.
With the musical scale, and which is kind of connects to a vibration.
Okay.
So you want to have a low, slow, dense vibration. You want to be up here feeling happy and empowered and in love. So
Yeah.
we try to take it to an opposite. So for instance, if someone's feeling guilty, then I'll kind of bring them up into optimism or positive expectation. So we try to flip the emotion to that place. Okay, so yeah, you can think about that and consciously, you know, intellectually, logically understand that, but how do you change it in your person?
That's
in your
right.
unconscious. So what I do is, and this is the part that sounds really unusual because it's new, but it's energy. So I connect in with the hologram of the nervous system energetically. I really understand how to do it, and it's mostly like a visualization. And I pull it up, and I just kind of take that neuron pattern, circuit, it's a circuit, it's a neuron circuit that goes through the entire body. Pull it up, and take that one that's connected to, what did I say, guilt, that's connected to guilt, and it's usually enlarged, it's inflamed, it's overused, and I kind of balance it out, clear it out, and bring up the other one that we want to move it towards a positive expectation and shift it and just it's like taking two wires, disconnecting them and reconnecting them on a different new circuit. It's like putting in a new wire and moving the energy down through the positive expectation circuit versus the guilt.
Now that's really interesting because there are techniques that they use, like neuro-linguistic programming, where they do attempt to, where they work with that same thing by a series of visualizations like you're talking about. So this is actually, this is real. The way
it's totally real. I'm like, I get the feedback from my clients and their skin eruptions clear up because that's often a stress, evidence of stress. Eczema is evidence of stress in the physical body responding to it, and it clears up. And you know, it doesn't all happen in one session.
Right.
You have to kind of work at it because this didn't happen in a day.
Right.
That with these emotions got in this pattern. It happens over time. It's repetition. It happens over time. So we layer it. We come up with something new, and we layer it. We bring it down, and relief happens. So rather than being in that fight or flight zone all the time with the lower, denser, negative feelings, you become more into a more peaceful state, a more harmonious, balanced state, and your system calms down. Your energy system, your nervous system, your brain, your endocrine system calms down because you're not always afraid or worried or, you know, whatever that emotion is that's got you spinning around. So I'm amazed at the feedback that I hear from my clients is that they are in situations with a particular person and that trigger person that they try to avoid in their family or whatever that causes them pain, suddenly it's not there anymore. And they can relax and they don't have the same interactions, and it really shifts in such a way that I'm continuously surprised by it. how effective it is.
I have a great amount of respect for that, and I want to let people know it doesn't mean that we're saying you shouldn't go to a doctor, right? It doesn't mean you shouldn't, pursue other things, but I think this is like a very important part of a larger healing package.
Indeed,
Okay.
That's what I was taught.
Yes.
That's what I learned at the Brennan School, which is why I give a lot of respect to her program, because she didn't say, oh, only this is the only way you can do it, which, some folks go down that path. But she is a scientist. She's a NASA physicist. And
Really?
Yep, she started off as a physicist. She became a mental
is
health
cool.
counselor, a body worker. Now she's a doctor of philosophy. I don't think that's correct. Theology.
So
Theology, that's it. Doctor of theology.
Okay.
So she has the whole package, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual aspect of it. And her program, which is well defined here in this book, Light Emerging, she talks about having a healing plan. So if you have a serious illness, I can't heal you. I don't want to heal you. You need to have a team. You need to have a team that's going to address all of the components of those 4 dimensions. So you have your medical team to address the physical issues that you need to address. You have a counselor of mental health, perhaps, that will help you with some of those emotional pieces that you need to, complete. And you have someone like me who works in the, let's call it spiritual realm, to address the energy body, to address the energy and emotional and body. So when you have a complete team like that, then you're addressing a serious illness from many levels. And
let's not forget the nutritional level.
yeah, that's another part of the physical,
That's
physical
me.
part. And that's one of the first things I look at with my people is, what are you eating? Are you allergic to it? Have you seen somebody, regarding that? So that I have a working knowledge of that from my own experience with allergies and that kind of thing. So that's why I recommend people do that if they have a serious illness, and they get well.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think, let's see, we're probably nearing the end of our program, but what I want you to do is maybe let people know if you have a way that they can get a hold of you if they choose to pursue this avenue of healing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I'm right here in Plymouth. My office is right next to the post office, between the church and the post office, and above Wilson's Jewelers. And I have a website, which is www.gaylehannan.com.
Gayle, yes, Gayle is in Gayle,
Yeah,
Hannan.
Yep. And you can find me on Facebook too. I'm all over the place, as well as our New Hampshire Holistic Health Network website as well.
Yes, and if you want to write me any questions, you can go to heathershealth@gmail.com. I also I'm going to load this on to my blog, which is heathershealthtalk.com. Easy enough. So either way, you can watch this as many times as you want to.
You might learn something new each time.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more holistic practices at Heather's Health Talk.
Thanks, Heather.
Hey, thanks, Gayle. Okay, I think we're good. That was
just about right.
Yeah, I think so. I think we hit right into that half an hour mark.
Yeah, I was timing it. It was just under half an hour, a few seconds under.